Have you ever found yourself wondering if the people in your life genuinely care about you, or if they're just sticking around for what you can do for them? It's like standing at a crossroads in Chicago's busy Loop district, watching streams of people rush past and wondering who would actually stop if you needed help. This feeling isn't unique to you. Millions of Americans in cities from New York to Los Angeles grapple with the same uncertainty every day. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, understood this human dilemma perfectly. He wrote about the importance of truly understanding the nature of those we allow into our lives. In our modern world of social media connections and surface-level interactions, this ancient wisdom has never been more relevant. Today, we're going to explore 16 clear signs that someone might be using you. These aren't just random observations, they're carefully identified patterns based on understanding human behavior and the subtle ways people can exploit your kindness. From recognizing when someone always puts you down after your victories to spotting those who only call when they need something, these insights will help you see past the masks people wear. But why does this matter? Because you deserve relationships that genuinely lift you up and bring out your best qualities. This isn't about becoming cynical or suspicious of everyone around you. It's about developing the wisdom to distinguish between people who truly value you and those who see you as a convenient resource. Are you ready to transform how you navigate your relationships? Let's dive into these 16 warning signs, starting with one of the most subtle yet damaging behaviors you might be experiencing right now. Lesson 1. When people put you down after every win. Picture this: you just landed the promotion you've been working toward for months at your Manhattan office. You're excited to share the news with someone you consider a close friend, but instead of congratulations, you get a sarcastic, "Oh, that's all?" Or, "Well, I guess they were desperate." Maybe you finally saved enough to buy your first car in Los Angeles, only to have someone respond with, "It's pretty basic, isn't it?" Or perhaps you've been training for months to run your first 5K in Chicago's lakefront, and when you proudly share your finish time, they smirk and say, "I did that in high school without even training." These diminishing comments are like hidden rocks in a flowing stream. They seem small and harmless on the surface, but they're perfectly positioned to trip you up when you're feeling most confident. The people who make these remarks aren't just being thoughtless, they're using a calculated strategy to keep you in a constant state of self-doubt. By making you feel smaller, they create space for themselves to feel bigger and more important. What makes this behavior particularly insidious is how it masquerades as normal conversation. They're not screaming at you or obviously attacking you. Instead, they're chipping away at your confidence with surgical precision, one harmless comment at a time. You might even find yourself second-guessing whether you're being too sensitive or reading too much into their words. Marcus Aurelius taught us that we have power over our minds and our reactions even when we can't control what others say to us. He understood that external events, including other people's words, only have the power we give them. When faced with these deflating comments, the Stoic approach isn't to suppress your hurt feelings or pretend they don't matter. Instead, it's about understanding what's really happening and choosing your response wisely. Here's the truth these comments reveal: they say far more about the speaker's insecurities than they do about your achievements. When someone consistently responds to your good news with sarcasm or belittlement, they're essentially saying, "I feel threatened by your success." Their need to diminish your wins comes from their own fear of being left behind or feeling inadequate. It's their way of trying to level the playing field by bringing you down to where they perceive themselves to be. Think about it this way: secure, confident people celebrate others' victories because they don't see success as a zero-sum game. They understand that your promotion doesn't take away from their career prospects, and your personal achievements don't diminish their own worth. But insecure people operate from a scarcity mindset, believing that there's only so much success to go around. The Stoic response to this behavior is to meet it with equanimity. that calm, composed strength that doesn't get rattled by others' emotional storms. You don't need to engage in verbal battles or try to defend every achievement. Instead, recognize these comments for what they are, reflections of someone else's inner turmoil, not accurate assessments of your worth. Start surrounding yourself with people who genuinely celebrate your victories, no matter how small. In cities like Denver or Seattle, you'll find communities of people who understand that lifting others up doesn't diminish their own light. Look for friends who ask follow-up questions about your achievements, who remember important dates and check in on your progress, who beam with genuine pride when you succeed. Your self-esteem isn't a tool for others to manipulate, it's your shield and your strength, completely independent of their opinions. Remember, in the Stoic pursuit of personal growth, your worth comes from within, not from external validation or the absence of criticism. When someone tries to dim your light with diminishing comments, let your actions speak louder than their words. Keep pursuing your goals, keep celebrating your wins, and keep choosing to spend your energy on relationships that actually nourish your spirit. The next pattern we need to discuss is even more frustrating because it involves people who sound incredibly supportive until it's time to actually show up. Lesson 2. They promise everything but deliver nothing. Imagine you're planning to move apartments in Brooklyn, and when you mention needing help, your friend immediately jumps in. Of course I'll be there. I've got a truck, and Saturday works perfectly for me. Don't even think about hiring movers. I've got your back. You feel relieved and grateful, maybe even canceling other backup plans because of their enthusiastic commitment. Saturday morning arrives, and your phone stays silent. No truck, no friend, no explanation until days later when they casually mention they got caught up with something else. Or picture this scenario. You're struggling with a work project in your Dallas office, and a colleague promises to send you those crucial files first thing Monday morning. Monday passes, then Tuesday, then the entire week. When you finally follow up, they act surprised and say they totally forgot, as if your deadline and stress meant nothing to them. These people are like magicians of words, weaving stories and promises with the ease of seasoned performers. They paint vivid pictures of how they'll support you, help you, and be there when you need them most. Their words are like shiny baubles, distracting you from the uncomfortable truth. There's absolutely no real commitment or intention behind their grand declarations. What makes this behavior particularly damaging is how it creates what we might call the illusion of investment. You start making decisions based on their promises. You turn down other help because they assured you they'd be there. You adjust your timeline, your backup plans, your entire approach because you believe their words carried weight. But when the moment comes for them to step up, they vanish like morning mist, leaving behind only a trail of unfulfilled commitments. The Stoic philosophers understood the crucial difference between words and actions. Epictetus taught that we should judge people not by what they say they'll do, but by what they consistently demonstrate through their behavior. Actions don't lie. They can't be dressed up with charming explanations or enthusiastic tone of voice. They are the true measure of someone's character and their genuine commitment to you. When promises become currency that's freely given but rarely cashed, you're seeing a massive red flag. Pay close attention to patterns. Does this person consistently fall short when it matters most? Do their grand gestures of support somehow always evaporate when real effort is required? If yes, it's time to seriously question their sincerity and your relationship with them. Think of it like building a house with someone who brings beautiful architectural blueprints but never shows up to the actual construction site. You can't build anything solid, not trust, not friendship, not partnership on words alone. The foundation of any meaningful relationship requires the concrete and steel of consistent actions. This isn't about becoming cynical or suspicious of everyone who offers help. It's about becoming discerning. Trust and healthy relationships are built on a careful balance of words that align with actions. When someone's behavior consistently contradicts their promises, they're showing you something important about their priorities and their view of you. Here's what you need to understand. These people are often more invested in the idea of being seen as supportive rather than actually being supportive. They enjoy the momentary glow of appearing helpful and generous, but they're not willing to invest the real time, energy, or sacrifice that genuine support requires. Start recognizing this pattern and protecting yourself accordingly. When someone makes big promises, respond with appreciation, but don't reorganize your life around their commitments. Keep your backup plans, maintain your other options, and watch what they actually do rather than getting swept up in what they say they'll do. Your time and emotional investment are precious resources. Reserve them for people who don't just speak with sincerity, but who consistently act with integrity and follow through on their word. The next warning sign is even more draining because it turns every interaction into an exhausting one-way street. Lesson 3. You give everything, they give nothing back. Picture yourself rowing a boat across Lake Michigan while someone else lounges comfortably in the passenger seat, enjoying the scenery and offering nothing but complaints about the pace. This perfectly captures what it feels like to be trapped in a relationship with unilateral benefit. You're doing all the work while they reap all the rewards. Maybe you're the friend who always drives when you go out together in Houston traffic, always picks up the dinner tab, always listens to their relationship drama at 2 a.m., and always remembers their birthday with a thoughtful gift. Meanwhile, when your car breaks down and you need a ride to work, there's suddenly radio silence. When you're going through your own relationship crisis, they're mysteriously too busy to talk. When your birthday rolls around, they either forget entirely or show up empty-handed with a casual "I'll get you something later" that never materializes. This dynamic is exhausting because it turns you into a perpetual giver while casting them as a permanent receiver. You find yourself constantly offering support, time, resources, and emotional energy only to discover a deafening silence when you're the one in need. It's like pouring water into a bucket with a massive hole in the bottom. No matter how much you give, it's never enough and nothing ever comes back to you. What makes this particularly insidious is how gradually it develops. It doesn't start with them demanding everything and offering nothing. Instead, it begins with small imbalances that you rationalize away. They're going through a tough time right now, you tell yourself. I don't mind helping out. But what starts as temporary support during their crisis becomes the permanent structure of your relationship. Stoicism teaches us about the fundamental importance of mutual respect and balance in healthy relationships. Marcus Aurelius understood that we are social beings who thrive through reciprocal connections, not through one-sided arrangements that drain one person while enriching another. Your worth as a human being isn't measured by your generosity, your availability, or your willingness to sacrifice your own needs for someone else's convenience. Here's what you need to recognize. Setting boundaries in these situations isn't selfish, it's self-respect in action. When you consistently give without receiving, you're not just being kind, you're teaching the other person that your time, energy, and resources have no value. You're training them to see you as a reliable source of support without any expectation of reciprocity. The Stoic approach to this situation involves honest self-reflection and decisive action. Start by engaging in direct conversations about the imbalance. Express your needs clearly and observe how they respond. Do they acknowledge the disparity and make genuine efforts to change? Or do they dismiss your concerns, make excuses, or promise changes that never materialize? Pay attention to who adjusts their behavior when you point out these imbalances. People who truly value you will be horrified to realize they've been taking advantage of your generosity and will immediately work to restore balance. Those who are simply using you will resist any changes that require them to give as much as they receive. Remember this crucial truth: you're not just a resource to be tapped whenever convenient. You're a complete person with your own needs, dreams, challenges, and limitations. You deserve relationships where support flows both directions, where your generosity is appreciated and reciprocated, not exploited and taken for granted. Quality trumps quantity every single time when it comes to relationships. It's far better to have 2 friends who genuinely care about your well-being than 10 who see you as their personal support system. You're not meant to be a one-person show in anyone's life. You deserve to be part of a supportive team where everyone contributes to everyone else's success and happiness. The next warning sign we'll explore is particularly painful because it strikes at the very core of feeling heard and valued as a human being. Lesson 4. Your feelings don't matter to them. Imagine carrying a backpack that gets heavier with each passing day, but every time you mention the weight to someone you trust, they act like you haven't spoken at all. You're walking through the streets of San Francisco, struggling with this invisible burden, and the person beside you is chatting about their weekend plans as if your words simply evaporated before reaching their ears. This is what it feels like when someone consistently disregards your emotions and needs. Picture this scenario. You've had an absolutely terrible day at your Phoenix office. Your boss criticized your work unfairly, you spilled coffee on important documents, and you're feeling completely overwhelmed. You reach out to someone you consider close, hoping for a bit of understanding or support. Instead of acknowledging your distress, they immediately launch into their own story about a minor inconvenience they experienced, completely steamrolling over your emotional state. When you try to redirect the conversation back to what you're going through, they give you distracted ahas while clearly thinking about something else entirely. Or maybe you're dealing with a family crisis. Your parent is in the hospital and you're scared and need someone to talk to. When you share this frightening situation, they respond with something like, "Oh, that's tough," and then immediately change the subject to their latest Netflix binge. It's as if your deepest concerns and fears are just background noise in the soundtrack of their life. This pattern isn't just carelessness or poor listening skills, it's a deliberate act designed to keep you emotionally subordinate. These people become the artists of your emotional landscape, but they only paint with colors of neglect and indifference while your palette of genuine needs remains completely untouched. They've learned that by consistently dismissing your feelings, they can maintain control over the relationship's emotional dynamics. What makes this behavior particularly damaging is how it makes you question your own emotional reality. You start wondering if you're being too sensitive, if your problems aren't really that important, or if you're asking for too much by simply wanting to be heard. This self-doubt is exactly what they're counting on. It keeps you from demanding the respect and attention you deserve. Marcus Aurelius taught that we must trust our inner voice, especially when it whispers that something isn't right. That quiet feeling telling you this isn't fair or I deserve better isn't you being dramatic. It's your wisdom recognizing a fundamental violation of human dignity. You are not a background character in someone else's story. You are the protagonist of your own life, and your emotions deserve to be acknowledged and respected. The Stoic approach to this situation requires both internal strength and external action. First, honor your own feelings by refusing to minimize them just because someone else does. Your emotions are valid responses to your experiences, and they deserve consideration regardless of whether others choose to acknowledge them. When your emotions are consistently brushed aside, it's time to speak up clearly and directly. This isn't about starting conflicts, it's about advocating for your basic human need to be seen and heard. Say something like, "I notice that when I share something important with you, the conversation quickly shifts to other topics. I need to feel like my feelings matter in this relationship." Pay attention to how they respond to this feedback. People who genuinely care about you will be concerned to learn they've been dismissive and will make real efforts to change. Those who are using you will likely become defensive, minimize your concerns, or continue the same patterns despite your direct communication. Remember that relationships should feel like a two-way street where both people's emotions are valued and respected. You deserve connections where your feelings aren't just tolerated but genuinely considered and cared for. The next manipulation tactic is particularly sophisticated because it operates in the shadows of your consciousness, slowly eroding your confidence without you even realizing it's happening. Lesson 5. How they control you without you knowing. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This profound insight becomes your armor when facing one of the most insidious forms of manipulation. Emotional control that operates so subtly you don't even realize it's happening until your confidence has been systematically dismantled. Picture this. You're working at a tech company in Seattle, and there's someone in your life who seems supportive on the surface. When you get praised by your boss, they say, "That's great, but don't let it go to your head." You know how these things can change quickly. When you're excited about a new project, they respond with, "I hope you're not setting yourself up for disappointment." Their words aren't overtly cruel, but they consistently plant seeds of doubt about your judgment, your abilities, and your worth. This is emotional manipulation at its most sophisticated level. The manipulator, cloaked in the guise of a concerned friend or caring partner, skillfully chips away at your self-esteem using a cunning mix of praise and criticism. They might compliment your outfit while subtly suggesting you're trying too hard, or celebrate your promotion while questioning whether you're really qualified for the increased responsibility. It's like being slowly poisoned. Each individual dose seems harmless, but the cumulative effect is devastating. What makes this particularly dangerous is how it creates a dependency on their validation. Over time, you start seeking their approval for decisions you used to make confidently on your own. You begin second-guessing your instincts, your choices, even your perceptions of reality. They've become the filter through which you view yourself, and that filter is designed to keep you small, uncertain, and reliant on their guidance. In your Denver apartment or Miami condo, you might find yourself rehearsing conversations before talking to them, worried about how they'll react to your news, your plans, or your feelings. You've unconsciously handed over the remote control of your emotional state to someone who doesn't have your best interests at heart. This isn't just a betrayal of trust. It's an insidious assault on your autonomy, which is a core principle in Stoic philosophy. The manipulation often follows a predictable pattern. They build you up just enough to keep you engaged, then tear you down just enough to keep you dependent. It's like being on an emotional roller coaster where they control the speed, the height, and the direction. You never know if you're going to get the supportive, encouraging version of them or the critical, doubt-inducing version. To stand firm against this psychological warfare, you must embrace the Stoic practice of self-awareness and personal sovereignty. Start paying attention to how you feel after interactions with this person. Do you leave conversations feeling energized and confident, or drained and uncertain? Trust your instincts. If something feels off, it probably is. Your mental space is yours to govern, as Marcus Aurelius reminds us. Create boundaries around your thoughts and decisions. When someone offers unsolicited criticism disguised as concern, ask yourself, is this feedback actually helpful, or is it designed to make me doubt myself? Learn to distinguish between genuine support and manipulative control. Begin challenging inconsistencies in their behavior. If they claim to care about your success but consistently undermine your confidence, call attention to this contradiction. Say something like, I notice you often express concern about my decisions right after I've made them. I need support for my choices, not constant second-guessing. Most importantly, reconnect with people who respect and encourage your growth without trying to manage or control your decisions. Surround yourself with individuals who celebrate your independence rather than trying to diminish it. Remember, your peace of mind is your most valuable possession. Guard it with the wisdom of a Stoic warrior, and never let anyone else hold the keys to your self-worth. The next warning sign involves a particularly painful absence, the missing support when you need it most. Lesson 6. They disappear when you need them most. At the heart of every meaningful relationship lies the bedrock of genuine support, that unshakable foundation that holds steady whether you're celebrating victories or weathering storms. It's like having a personal lighthouse that guides you through both calm seas and turbulent waters. But what happens when that lighthouse suddenly goes dark just when the storm hits hardest? Imagine you're living in Atlanta and you've just received devastating news. You're being laid off from a job you've held for 5 years. Your world feels like it's crumbling, and you reach out to someone you considered a close friend, someone who's been around for all your good times. But now, when you desperately need a listening ear or even just a reassuring presence, they're nowhere to be found. Your calls go to voicemail, your texts get brief, dismissive responses, and suddenly they're too busy with work, family, or social commitments that never seemed to interfere before. Or picture this scenario. You're going through a painful breakup in your Chicago apartment, feeling lost and questioning everything about your future. The person who used to text you daily with funny memes and casual conversation has mysteriously become radio silent. When you finally do hear from them weeks later, they act as if nothing happened, jumping right back into lighthearted chatter about their weekend plans without acknowledging your crisis at all. These fair-weather friends are like shadows. They're prominently visible when the sun is shining bright on your life, but they vanish completely at the first sign of darkness. They view relationships as mere conveniences, stepping stones that serve their purposes when times are good but become burdensome obligations when real support is required. What makes this behavior particularly hurtful is the stark contrast it creates. During your successful periods, when you got that promotion, bought your first house, or started that exciting new relationship, they were right there, basking in the reflected glow of your happiness. They enjoyed the fun dinners, the celebratory drinks, the positive energy that surrounded your good fortune. But the moment your circumstances shifted and you needed them to give rather than receive, they exited stage, left like actors whose scene had ended. Their absence during your darkest moments isn't just disappointing, it's a loud, clear statement about their true intentions and the shallow nature of their commitment to you. They're essentially saying, I'm here for the benefits of your friendship, but not for the responsibilities that come with it. Stoicism teaches us to see people and situations as they truly are, not as we wish them to be or as they present themselves during convenient moments. Marcus Aurelius understood that genuine character is revealed not in times of ease and prosperity, but in moments of difficulty and challenge. When someone consistently disappears during your times of need, they're showing you exactly who they are and what you mean to them. The Stoic approach to this painful realization isn't about bitterness or revenge, it's about clarity and self-respect. Reflect on these relationships with an unclouded mind, free from the emotional fog of wishful thinking. Understand that authentic bonds are tested not in joy and celebration, but in adversity and struggle. When someone repeatedly vanishes during your storms, it's time to reassess their role in your life. This doesn't mean you should become cynical about all relationships, but rather that you should invest your emotional energy more wisely. Focus on building connections with people who demonstrate consistency, those who show up not just for your victories but also for your defeats. Remember, your value as a person doesn't decrease based on someone's inability to see your worth during difficult times. Instead of chasing after people who disappear when you need them, redirect your energy toward those who prove their loyalty through both sunshine and storms. The next pattern we need to address involves relationships that feel more like business transactions than genuine human connections. Lesson 7. Everything becomes a competition with them. Navigating relationships can often feel like walking a tightrope, especially when every interaction feels like a tally in a hidden game of give and take. You might find yourself in a friendship or partnership where kindness comes with a silent invoice and every favor has strings attached. This is the unsettling reality of constant competition in relationships, a dynamic that can be both draining and demoralizing. Imagine you're in a conversation with a friend in Boston who has always been competitive. You share your excitement over finally completing a marathon, a personal achievement that took months of hard work and dedication. Instead of celebrating your victory, they quickly pivot to bragging about how they completed 2 marathons in one season, complete with tales of their training regimen and how they placed in their age group. This pattern continues, where your successes become mere footnotes in their ongoing narrative of superiority. It's not that competition itself is inherently harmful. A little friendly rivalry can motivate us to strive for our best. However, when every interaction feels like a scorecard tallying who is winning and who is losing, the essence of genuine connection is lost. Instead of fostering mutual growth and shared victories, this relationship dynamic creates an environment where you start to feel like a contestant in a never-ending game rather than a valued partner. Seneca, the Stoic philosopher, warned us against such imbalances in relationships, emphasizing the importance of genuine connections over calculated exchanges. In a healthy relationship, both parties should feel uplifted and inspired by each other's successes. But when competition overshadows collaboration, it becomes a one-sided match where you're left feeling indebted, as if every gesture of kindness or support has an unspoken price tag. This unhealthy competitive dynamic can manifest in various ways. Perhaps your friend frequently interrupts you to share their own stories or experiences, making it difficult for you to express your thoughts. Maybe they downplay your accomplishments, suggesting that your hard work is less significant than theirs. Or they might always steer conversations back to themselves, leaving you feeling like a spectator in your own life. The problem with this constant competition is that it can lead to emotional exhaustion. You may find yourself second-guessing your achievements, wondering if they're worthy of celebration or if they'll only serve as fodder for someone else's bragging rights. This can create a toxic environment in which you're hesitant to share your successes, fearing that they will be met with dismissal or overshadowing. The Stoic response to this situation begins with self-awareness. Recognize that your worth isn't tied to how others perceive your achievements. The next time you find yourself in a competition with someone who seems more interested in winning than celebrating, take a moment to reflect on your feelings. Do you feel energized and motivated, or drained and belittled? Establishing boundaries is crucial when dealing with competitive individuals. You have every right to assert your need for supportive relationships where encouragement rather than competition is the norm. If your friend consistently turns conversations into contests, gently steer the discussion back to a more balanced exchange. You might say something like, "I appreciate hearing about your experiences, but I also want to share what I've been working on. It's important for me to celebrate my successes too." This approach encourages them to consider your feelings and may help shift the dynamic from competition to collaboration. If they resist this change or continue to prioritize their own narrative, it might be time to reevaluate the role they play in your life. Surround yourself with individuals who genuinely celebrate your victories, who are excited about your growth, and who understand that your success does not diminish their own. In a world filled with competitive relationships, choose to cultivate connections based on mutual respect and support. Seek out friends and partners who inspire you to be your best self without turning every interaction into a game. Remember, true friendship thrives on collaboration, not competition, and your worth is defined by your actions, not by others' comparisons. The next manipulation tactic we'll explore involves feeling like you're always the one giving, while the other person takes without any reciprocity. Lesson 8. Missing when life gets hard. Fair-weather friends are like shadows. They're present during your brightest days, but vanish completely when the clouds roll in. This behavior can be particularly painful, especially when you're going through difficult times and need support the most. You might find yourself surrounded by laughter and smiles when things are going well, but as soon as life gets tough, those friendships fade into the background. Consider this scenario. You've just received a distressing call that a loved one is in the hospital. Your heart sinks and you feel the weight of fear and uncertainty pressing down on you. You reach out to your close circle of friends in San Diego, hoping for some comfort and reassurance. Instead, you find that your messages go unanswered, your calls ring without response, and those who once promised to be there for you are suddenly nowhere to be found. It's as if they've decided that your struggle is too heavy a burden to bear. This absence isn't just disappointing, it speaks volumes about the nature of these relationships. These individuals view connections as mere conveniences, stepping stones for their benefit when it suits them, but when the tide turns and you need more than casual companionship, they disappear like mist. Their absence during your tough times is a clear signal of their true intentions, revealing that they are more interested in the fun and benefits of the friendship than in the responsibilities that come with it. It's essential to recognize that everyone has their own challenges and may not always be available when you need them. However, the people who truly care about you will make an effort to show up even when it's inconvenient for them. They won't abandon you in your moments of crisis. Instead, they will strive to provide support, whether that means listening to you vent, offering practical help, or simply being present to share in your burden. Marcus Aurelius taught us that we must see people and situations for what they truly are, not as we wish them to be. When someone consistently vanishes during your difficult times, it's a clear indicator of their character and the value they place on your relationship. This insight is critical for your emotional health. It allows you to understand that your worth doesn't diminish based on someone else's inability to see it, and it empowers you to reevaluate the role they play in your life. The Stoic approach to dealing with fair-weather friends involves both reflection and action. Begin by assessing the relationships in your life. Who has been there for you during your struggles? Who has consistently supported you through thick and thin? Take stock of those who have shown up for you when it mattered most. These individuals are the ones who genuinely value you and your well-being. Next, it's crucial to communicate your feelings openly. If you feel let down by someone's absence during a time of need, let them know how their lack of support has affected you. You might say, "I felt really alone when I was going through that tough time, and I missed having you around. I value our friendship, but I need to know I can count on you when life gets hard." This not only gives them the opportunity to reflect on their behavior, but also sets the tone for what you expect from the relationship moving forward. If they respond positively and acknowledge your feelings, it may be a sign that they value your connection and are willing to make changes. However, if they downplay your concerns or continue to withdraw, it may be time to reassess their place in your life. You deserve friends who are there for you during both the good times and the bad, who understand that true friendship is about mutual support and unconditional care. In times of hardship, remember that you are not alone. Seek out those who demonstrate loyalty and compassion, those who stand by your side when the storms of life hit. Surround yourself with people who make you feel valued, supported, and cherished regardless of the circumstances. Your emotional health and well-being are far too important to be compromised by relationships that lack depth and commitment. The next warning sign we need to address involves feeling like you're always the one giving while the other person takes without any reciprocity. Lesson 9. You always text first, and other warning signs. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where you're always the one reaching out? You initiate the conversation, send the first text, and make the effort to keep the connection alive. Meanwhile, your friend on the other end seems to be perpetually busy, leaving you to wonder if your friendship is as meaningful to them as it is to you. This unbalanced dynamic is a classic sign of a one-sided relationship, and it often leads to feelings of frustration and resentment. Imagine living in a bustling city like New York where the pace of life can be relentless. You're excited about a recent achievement, perhaps you secured a promotion or completed a challenging project. You want to share your excitement with your friend, so you send them a message. Instead of a warm congratulatory reply, you get a delayed response hours later that reads, "Oh, cool. That's nice." The next time you reach out, it's again you who initiates the conversation. You might feel a sense of obligation to keep the dialogue going, but deep down, you know this isn't how friendships should feel. This pattern can create an emotional imbalance where you end up feeling like an unpaid therapist or a one-person cheerleading squad. You're the one who cares enough to check in regularly, remember important dates, and make plans, but the other person seems to take your efforts for granted. It's as if you're putting energy into a relationship that is not being reciprocated, which can be incredibly draining. The Stoic perspective on relationships emphasizes the importance of mutual respect and balance. Marcus Aurelius believed that genuine connections are built on the foundation of shared effort and mutual appreciation. When one person consistently takes while the other gives, the relationship loses its integrity and becomes transactional rather than genuine. So, how can you address this imbalance? The first step is to recognize the signs of a one-sided relationship. Here are some key indicators to watch for. One-sided communication. You find that you are always the one initiating contact. If you stop reaching out, the conversation dwindles to nothing. Lack of follow-up. When you share something important like a promotion or a personal struggle, they don't ask follow-up questions or show genuine interest in your life. Inconsistent effort. You notice they only reach out when it's convenient for them or when they need something from you, like advice or emotional support. Minimal engagement. Their responses to your messages are short and lack enthusiasm, making it clear that they aren't invested in the conversation. Emotional labor. You feel like you're constantly managing the relationship, putting in all the effort to maintain it while they sit back and enjoy the benefits. Once you've recognized these patterns, it's time to take action. Start by having an open and honest conversation with your friend. You could say something like, "I've noticed that I tend to reach out more often than you do, and I'd love for our friendship to feel more balanced." This approach encourages dialogue and gives them a chance to reflect on their behavior. If they respond positively, expressing a desire to improve, then it might be worth continuing the friendship. However, if they dismiss your concerns or make excuses, it may be time to reevaluate whether this relationship is worth your time and emotional energy. In the Stoic view, it's essential to invest your emotional resources in relationships that provide mutual support and respect. Surround yourself with people who appreciate your efforts, who reciprocate your care, and who make you feel valued in return. It's not about keeping score, rather, it's about fostering connections that enrich your life and contribute to your well-being. Remember, you deserve friendships where the effort is mutual, where both parties feel heard and valued, and where you can share your victories and struggles without feeling like you're carrying the weight of the relationship alone. The next manipulation tactic we'll explore involves an unsettling sense of imbalance in giving and receiving, when it feels like you're the one always giving while the other person takes without any reciprocity. Lesson 10. When trust gets broken again and again. In the landscape of relationships, trust is the bedrock on which everything else is built. When that trust is broken, it can feel like a silent storm brewing beneath the surface, often unnoticed until it strikes. Imagine you're in a relationship, whether it's a friendship, romantic partnership, or even a professional connection, where you find yourself constantly giving your trust, only to have it broken time and time again. This pattern can leave you feeling drained, disillusioned, and questioning your own judgment. Picture this. You've shared something deeply personal with a close friend in Miami, trusting them to keep your confidence. You confide in them about a difficult family situation, expecting empathy and discretion. However, days later, you hear them casually discussing your situation with others, and the betrayal cuts deep. This isn't just about the loss of privacy. It's a violation of the sacred bond of trust you believed you had established. Or consider a workplace scenario where a colleague promises to support you on a project, only to undermine your efforts when it matters most. They might agree to collaborate, but then fail to deliver their part of the work, leaving you to pick up the pieces. When you confront them about it, they brush it off with insincere apologies and empty reassurances, promising it won't happen again. Yet, the cycle repeats, and you find yourself questioning your own reliability and sanity in the process. This relentless cycle of broken trust can feel like an emotional tug-of-war, leaving you exhausted and unfulfilled. It's important to recognize that trust, once broken, requires more than just apologies. It necessitates a consistent demonstration of change and accountability. Stoicism teaches us the power of perception and reaction. We have control over how we perceive and respond to these betrayals, even if we can't control the actions of others. When trust is repeatedly broken, the first step is to assess the situation honestly. Ask yourself, is this a pattern? Do they consistently fail to uphold their commitments? Are their apologies sincere, or merely a means to placate you temporarily? Reflect on the balance in the relationship. Are you always the one giving trust while they take it for granted? The Stoic approach to these dilemmas involves setting healthy boundaries. You must protect your emotional well-being by recognizing that trust is a privilege, not a right. If someone continually breaks your trust, it's crucial to communicate your feelings assertively. You might say, I value our relationship, but I've noticed that my trust has been broken multiple times, and it's affecting how I feel about our connection. This opens the door for dialogue and gives the other person an opportunity to reflect on their actions. However, be prepared for their response. Genuine friends will take your feelings seriously and work to change their behavior. They will acknowledge the impact of their actions and take steps to earn back your trust. On the other hand, if they minimize your feelings or continue the same patterns without remorse, it may be time to consider whether this relationship is worth your investment. Trust is not easily rebuilt. It requires consistent actions over time to demonstrate reliability and integrity. If someone truly values you, they will understand the importance of trust and work diligently to restore it. If they don't, it's a clear sign that they may not be worthy of your continued trust or emotional investment. Remember, your emotional well-being is paramount. Protect it by surrounding yourself with individuals who respect your boundaries and consistently uphold their commitments. Seek friendships and relationships where trust is mutual, where you feel safe being vulnerable, and where your feelings are honored. In navigating the complexities of relationships, Stoicism teaches us resilience and clarity. Trust is a vital component of meaningful connections, and it should never be taken for granted. You deserve relationships where trust is not just an expectation but a foundational pillar that supports your emotional health and stability. The next manipulation tactic we'll explore involves the subtle yet powerful tool of guilt. How some people use it to keep you feeling indebted and obligated. Lesson 11. They only call when they need something. Have you ever felt like a tool in someone else's toolbox? You know, the kind of friend who only hears from certain people when they're in a pinch? You might be living in a vibrant city like Los Angeles, where the social scene is bustling, and yet you find yourself feeling isolated when it comes to meaningful connections. You go through your contacts and realize that the only times you hear from certain friends are when they need a favor or help with something. This dynamic can be incredibly disheartening, leaving you to wonder if you're valued as a person or merely as a resource. Imagine this scenario. You're at work in a busy office and you've been putting in extra hours and effort on a challenging project. Your colleague, who you thought was a friend, suddenly reaches out after weeks of silence, asking for your assistance on their own project. They're in a bind and need your expertise to save their skin. You feel a mix of frustration and obligation. Frustration because they haven't checked in on you in ages, and obligation because you genuinely want to help but also want a reciprocated relationship. Or perhaps you're in a friendship where you often lend a listening ear to your friends' problems, but when you're feeling down, they're nowhere to be found. They might send a cursory text asking how you are, but when you share your struggles, the conversation quickly shifts back to their latest drama. They only seem to engage when it's convenient for them, leaving you feeling drained and unimportant. This pattern of selective availability is a clear sign that someone views your relationship as transactional rather than reciprocal. They rely on you for emotional support, advice, or favors, but when the tables are turned, they vanish. It's a frustrating dynamic that can create feelings of resentment and disappointment. Stoicism offers valuable insights into recognizing and addressing this imbalance. Marcus Aurelius taught that our worth is not defined by how others perceive us or how they choose to engage with us. It's essential to remember that you deserve relationships built on mutual respect and genuine interest, not merely on convenience. The first step in addressing this pattern is to recognize the signs of selective availability. Ask yourself, are they only reaching out when they need something? Do they often ignore your attempts to initiate contact unless it benefits them? When you share your struggles or successes, do they quickly redirect the conversation back to themselves? Once you've identified these patterns, it's time to take action. Open a dialogue with your friend about how their behavior affects your feelings. You might say something like, "I've noticed that our conversations often revolve around what you need from me, and I'd love to have a more balanced friendship where we both support each other." This approach encourages them to reflect on their actions and may prompt them to change. However, be prepared for various responses. A true friend will recognize the imbalance and work with you to make adjustments. They may not have realized how their behavior was impacting you, and they might genuinely want to improve the relationship. On the other hand, if they dismiss your concerns or become defensive, it's a clear indication that they may not value your friendship as much as you hoped. Remember, you have the right to choose where you invest your time and energy. Surround yourself with individuals who appreciate your contributions and reciprocate your kindness. Seek friendships that feel balanced, where the support flows both ways and where you feel valued as a person, not just a problem solver. The Stoic philosophy emphasizes the importance of self-respect and boundaries. You deserve relationships where your feelings, time, and energy are honored and appreciated. Don't settle for friendships that thrive on your availability alone. Instead, cultivate connections that enrich your life and foster mutual growth. As you continue to evaluate your relationships, recognize that true friendship is a two-way street. It's about being there for each other, sharing both the highs and lows, and supporting one another through life's challenges. Your emotional well-being is paramount, and you have the power to shape the connections in your life. Next, we'll explore how some people wield guilt as a tool to manipulate your feelings, making you feel as if you owe them more than you truly do. Lesson 12. How they make you feel guilty for everything. Guilt can be a master manipulator's favorite tool, wielded with precision to keep you feeling indebted and obligated. It's a subtle yet powerful tactic that can turn your kindness into a burden, making you feel as though you owe someone for simply being yourself. This form of emotional manipulation can be insidious, creeping into your relationships and transforming them into transactions where your worth is measured by your willingness to meet the other person's demands. Picture this: you've just spent a long week at work, feeling exhausted and overwhelmed. You had planned a relaxing weekend for yourself, but then a friend reaches out, sounding distressed. They tell you that they're facing a personal crisis and need your support. You want to help, so you cancel your plans and go over to comfort them. However, once you arrive, they don't express gratitude for your sacrifice. Instead, they start dropping hints about how they expect you to always be there for them, as if your availability is a given. They might say, "After everything I've done for you, I thought you'd be here for me when I needed it most." This manipulation tactic often comes wrapped in the guise of concern. Your friend might say things like, "I can't believe you would choose to relax instead of helping me," or "I thought we were closer than that." These remarks play on your sense of duty and obligation, making you question your priorities and your worth as a friend. You start to feel guilty for wanting to take care of your own needs, as if your self-care is a betrayal of your friendship. The crux of this manipulation lies in how they frame their expectations. They make you feel as if your kindness and support are currency that can be spent at any time, turning every favor into a debt you never asked to incur. This conditioning can lead to a cycle of guilt where you feel compelled to give more of your time, energy, and resources to meet their demands, often at the expense of your own well-being. Stoicism offers a powerful lens through which to examine and combat this kind of emotional manipulation. Marcus Aurelius emphasized the importance of acting according to reason and virtue rather than succumbing to emotional pressure. He understood that we have control over our actions and reactions even in the face of others' attempts to manipulate us. When you find yourself feeling guilty for simply wanting to prioritize your own needs, take a step back and assess the situation. Ask yourself, am I genuinely obligated to meet their demands, or is this guilt being manufactured? Does this person respect my boundaries, or do they continually push against them? Are they making me feel responsible for their happiness and emotional state? The Stoic approach involves setting clear boundaries and asserting your right to prioritize your own well-being. It's essential to communicate openly with the person who is attempting to manipulate you. You might say something like, "I understand you're going through a tough time, but I also need to take care of myself. I can't always be available, and that doesn't mean I don't care about you." This statement acknowledges their feelings while asserting your own needs. If they respond positively, expressing understanding and appreciation for your honesty, it may indicate that they value your friendship and are willing to change. However, if they react defensively or continue to guilt-trip you, it's a clear sign that you need to reevaluate the relationship. You deserve connections where your kindness isn't taken for granted and where you don't feel pressured to sacrifice your happiness for someone else's comfort. Remember, your emotional well-being is paramount. Surround yourself with people who respect your boundaries and appreciate your kindness without turning it into a weapon. You have the right to say no without feeling guilty, and you should never feel obligated to meet someone else's emotional needs at the expense of your own. In a world where guilt can easily be weaponized, embrace your autonomy and recognize that your self-care is not selfish, it's essential. Choose to invest your time and energy in relationships that uplift you and encourage your personal growth. The next manipulation tactic we'll explore involves feeling unheard in conversations, as if you're merely a sounding board for someone else's thoughts and feelings. Lesson 13. They never ask about your life. If you often feel like you're playing tennis against a wall, constantly serving up volleys of your thoughts and feelings but never receiving a return, you might be caught in a one-sided relationship. The person you're engaging with seems to have zero interest in your life, your experiences, or your emotions. Instead, the conversations revolve around them, their challenges, and their successes, leaving you feeling unheard and unvalued. Imagine you're out for coffee in a bustling cafe in New York City with a friend. You excitedly share your recent promotion at work, hoping for a bit of enthusiasm and support. Instead, they nod politely, and before you know it, they shift the conversation back to their own job woes. That's great, but let me tell you about my terrible boss, they say, launching into a long monologue about their own struggles, leaving you feeling as if your achievements are mere background noise. This pattern can become exhausting. You find yourself pouring your thoughts and feelings into conversations, only to be met with silence or a lack of engagement. You may even begin to feel like a sounding board for their emotions rather than a valued partner in dialogue. This isn't just poor communication. It's a blatant disregard for mutual respect and empathy in the relationship. The Stoic perspective on communication emphasizes the importance of mutual exchange and understanding. Marcus Aurelius taught that true friendship involves a balance where both parties feel heard and appreciated. When one person monopolizes conversations, it creates an imbalance that can lead to frustration and emotional depletion for the other party. So, how can you address this lack of interest and engagement? The first step is to recognize the signs of a one-sided conversation. Here are a few indicators. Consistent redirection. They frequently change the topic back to themselves whenever you attempt to share your thoughts. Lack of questions. They don't ask follow-up questions about your life, showing no curiosity about your experiences or feelings. Minimal engagement. Their responses are short, lacking enthusiasm or depth, making you feel like your input doesn't matter. Interruptions. They often interrupt you to share their own stories, sidelining what you were trying to express. Once you've identified these patterns, it's time to take action. Start by having an open conversation about how you feel. You might say something like, "I've noticed that our conversations often focus on your experiences, and I'd love for us to share more about each other's lives. It's important for me to feel heard too." This approach encourages them to reflect on their behavior and gives them a chance to adjust. If they respond positively, it might indicate that they value your friendship and are willing to make changes. However, if they dismiss your feelings or continue to dominate the conversation, it could be a sign that they are more interested in themselves than in a reciprocal relationship. Remember, you deserve connections where your voice is valued and where you feel heard. Surround yourself with individuals who genuinely care about your experiences and who are eager to engage in meaningful dialogue. It's not about keeping score. It's about fostering relationships that enrich your life and foster mutual growth. In a world where conversations can easily become one-sided, Embrace the Stoic principle of seeking balance in your interactions. Choose to invest your time and energy in relationships where both parties feel valued and respected. You have the right to share your thoughts, feelings, and experiences without feeling like an afterthought. As you navigate your relationships, consider how you can cultivate connections that honor both your voice and those of others. True friendship thrives on reciprocity, where both parties uplift and support each other. Your experiences and emotions are just as important as anyone else's, and you deserve to be in relationships that reflect this truth. Next, we'll explore the subtle yet damaging nature of unilateral conversations, where your voice is drowned out by someone else's need to dominate the dialogue. Lesson 14. Conversations are always about them. Have you ever found yourself in a conversation that feels more like an audience performance than a dialogue? You sit across from a friend at a coffee shop in Seattle, nodding along as they recount their latest exploits. But the moment you try to share your own thoughts, your words seem to vanish into thin air. They might nod politely, but their eyes glaze over, and before you know it, they're back to their own story, seemingly oblivious to your presence. This is the hallmark of a unilateral conversation, where your voice is sidelined and your experiences become mere background noise. This dynamic is especially frustrating because it can happen with people you genuinely care about. You might be excited to share a personal achievement, like completing a challenging project at work or overcoming a personal hurdle, only to have the conversation swiftly redirected back to their life. That's nice, but let me tell you about my weekend trip. I did the most amazing things. And just like that, your moment fades into the background as they take center stage once again. The problem with these one-sided conversations is that they can leave you feeling undervalued and unimportant. You might start to question whether your thoughts and feelings even matter to this person. Over time, this pattern can erode your self-esteem and make you feel like a secondary character in your own life story. Stoic philosophy teaches us that true communication is a mutual exchange, where both parties engage with curiosity and respect. Marcus Aurelius emphasized the importance of understanding others and being present in conversations. When one person monopolizes the dialogue, it creates an imbalance that can lead to frustration and emotional exhaustion for the other party. Recognizing the signs of a unilateral conversation is the first step in addressing this issue. Here are some key indicators. Lack of questions. They rarely ask about your life or feelings, focusing solely on their own experiences. Dominating the conversation. They consistently redirect discussions back to themselves without acknowledging your contributions. Interruptions. They frequently interrupt or cut you off, making it difficult for you to express your thoughts fully. Minimal interest. Their responses are often short and lack enthusiasm, indicating that they are more invested in their own narrative than in yours. Once you've identified these patterns, it's essential to take action. Start by asserting your voice in conversations. You might say something like, "I appreciate hearing about your experiences, but I'd love to share what's been happening in my life too." This invites them to consider your perspective and encourages a more balanced exchange. If they respond positively, it might indicate that they value your friendship and are willing to engage more equitably. However, if they dismiss your attempt to shift the conversation or continue to dominate, it could be a sign that they are more interested in being heard than in fostering a genuine connection. Remember, you deserve relationships where your voice is valued and where you feel heard. Surround yourself with individuals who are genuinely curious about your experiences and who encourage you to share your thoughts. True friendship thrives on reciprocity, where both parties contribute to the dialogue and uplift one another. In a world filled with distractions and self-centeredness, embrace the Stoic principle of seeking balance in your interactions. Choose to invest your time and energy in relationships that honor both your voice and those of others. You have the right to share your thoughts, feelings, and experiences without feeling like an afterthought. As you navigate your relationships, consider how you can cultivate connections that foster mutual respect and understanding. True friendship is built on shared experiences and open communication, where both parties feel valued and appreciated. Your experiences and emotions are important, and you deserve to be in relationships that reflect this truth. The next manipulation tactic we'll explore involves the superficiality of closeness, where the illusion of intimacy masks a lack of genuine connection. Lesson 15. They act close but don't really care. In our fast-paced digital world, navigating relationships can often feel like walking through a mirage. One moment, everything seems perfectly fine, and you feel a sense of closeness with someone. But as soon as you look closer, you realize that the connection lacks depth, authenticity, and genuine emotional investment. You find yourself in a relationship characterized by superficial closeness, where actions and words create an illusion of connection but fall woefully short of true intimacy. Imagine you're in a vibrant city like New Orleans, sharing a meal with a friend who seems engaged and supportive. They laugh at your jokes, nod enthusiastically at your stories, and make you feel like you're the center of their universe. But as soon as the conversation shifts to something deeper, your fears, dreams, or struggles, you sense a shift. They might quickly change the subject or make vague comments that dismiss your feelings without genuinely engaging. You leave the interaction feeling more like a performer in their show rather than a valued partner in a meaningful exchange. This pattern can be especially disheartening. You might have invested your time and energy in these relationships, only to discover that the other person is more interested in maintaining a facade of closeness than in truly understanding you. They might keep in touch through casual texts or social media interactions, but when it comes to sharing real emotions or supporting you during tough times, they vanish like a mirage in the desert. The issue with superficial closeness is that it often leads to a sense of isolation and disappointment. You may find yourself questioning the authenticity of the relationship, wondering if it's worth the effort you're putting in. Are they genuinely interested in your life, or are they merely enjoying the convenience of a friendship without any real commitment? These are crucial questions to ask yourself as you assess the quality of your connections. Stoicism teaches us the value of authenticity in our relationships. Marcus Aurelius emphasized the importance of surrounding ourselves with people who uplift and inspire us. Genuine friendships are built on mutual respect, understanding, and a willingness to go beyond surface-level interactions. When someone consistently engages in superficial closeness, they are failing to honor the deeper emotional bonds that can enrich both your lives. Recognizing the signs of superficial closeness is the first step in addressing this imbalance. Here are some key indicators to look out for. Lack of depth. Conversations rarely go beyond surface-level topics, and there's little interest in your inner life. Vague responses. When you share something meaningful, they offer generic replies instead of engaging in a deeper discussion. Avoidance of vulnerability. They shy away from sharing their own struggles or emotions, creating a one-sided dynamic. Inconsistent engagement. They may be present during happy moments but disappear when you face challenges or need support. Once you've identified these patterns, it's essential to take action. Start by voicing your feelings and expressing your desire for a more meaningful connection. You might say something like, "I really enjoy our time together, but I'd love for us to discuss more personal topics and support each other through life's ups and downs." This invites them to consider your perspective and can help deepen your relationship. However, be prepared for various responses. If they genuinely value your friendship, they may appreciate your honesty and work to engage more authentically. But if they continue to prioritize superficial interactions, it may be time to reevaluate the role they play in your life. Remember, you deserve connections that are rooted in sincerity and mutual growth. As you navigate your relationships, seek out friends who are willing to invest in the emotional depth of the connection. Surround yourself with people who challenge you, support you, and genuinely care about your well-being. True friendship thrives on authenticity, and you have the right to cultivate relationships that reflect this truth. The next manipulation tactic we'll explore involves the continued lack of respect in relationships, where your feelings and boundaries are consistently disregarded. Lesson 16, they never respect your boundaries. Walking through life with someone who constantly disregards your feelings and boundaries can feel like navigating a maze without a map. You find yourself in a relationship where your voice fades into the background and your needs are often overlooked. This lack of respect can manifest in subtle ways that, over time, become glaringly obvious and deeply frustrating. Imagine you're in a close friendship in bustling Chicago. You've expressed to your friend multiple times that you need some time and space to focus on your mental health, especially during particularly stressful periods at work. However, they continually push against your boundaries, calling you late at night or showing up unannounced at your home, claiming they just wanted to hang out and didn't think you'd mind. Each time, you feel your concerns are dismissed and your attempts to communicate your needs go unacknowledged. Or consider a romantic relationship where you've set clear boundaries regarding personal space or time apart. Despite your efforts to communicate your needs, your partner continually tests those limits, insisting that they want to spend every free moment together. They might say things like, "You're overreacting, we should enjoy our time together." This pressure to disregard your boundaries can lead to feelings of guilt or anxiety, making you question whether you're being unreasonable for wanting time to yourself. This continuous lack of respect for your boundaries is not just a minor annoyance, it's a significant red flag that indicates a fundamental imbalance in the relationship. It shows a lack of understanding and consideration for your feelings and needs, which are crucial for maintaining healthy connections. Stoicism teaches us the importance of self-awareness and self-respect in relationships. Marcus Aurelius emphasized that we must recognize our worth and stand firm in our values. When someone regularly disrespects your boundaries, it's essential to confront this behavior with clarity and assertiveness. You have the right to protect your emotional well-being and to expect others to honor your boundaries. The first step in addressing this issue is to reflect on your boundaries. What are your limits and why are they essential to your well-being? Take the time to articulate these boundaries clearly in your mind so that you can communicate them effectively. Here are some examples of common boundaries you might need to set. Time boundaries. I need my evenings to recharge, so I won't be available after 7 p.m. Emotional boundaries. I can't discuss my family issues right now. I need to focus on my own mental health. Physical boundaries. I'm not comfortable with uninvited visits. Please let me know before you come over. Once you've established your boundaries, it's time to communicate them clearly to the other person. Approach the conversation with honesty and assertiveness. You might say something like, "I value our friendship, but I need you to respect my personal space and time. It's important for my well-being." This kind of communication sends a clear message that you are serious about your needs. Be prepared for their reaction. A genuine friend or partner will apologize for their behavior and make an effort to respect your boundaries moving forward. However, if they dismiss your feelings or become defensive, it's a clear indication that they may not have your best interests at heart. Remember, you deserve relationships where your boundaries are honored and respected. Surround yourself with individuals who recognize your needs and are willing to engage with you in a way that fosters mutual respect. True friendship is built on a foundation of understanding where both parties feel safe to express their needs without fear of judgment or manipulation. In navigating your relationships, embrace the Stoic ideal of self-respect and assertiveness. Your emotional health should never be compromised by someone else's inability to recognize your boundaries. Choose to cultivate connections that honor your individuality and support your growth. As we wrap up this exploration of manipulation tactics in relationships, remember that you have the power to shape your connections. You deserve friendships and partnerships where your feelings, boundaries, and needs are valued and respected. As we conclude our exploration of the subtle manipulation tactics that can undermine our relationships, it's essential to reflect on the lessons learned and consider how you can apply this wisdom to your own life. The insights from Stoic philosophers remind us that true strength lies in understanding ourselves and the dynamics of our connections. Recognizing the signs of manipulation, whether it's diminishing comments, broken promises, or the absence of support when you need it most, empowers you to make informed choices about who you allow into your life. Remember, you deserve friendships and relationships rooted in mutual respect, where your feelings, boundaries, and needs are honored. Take the time to reflect on your current relationships. Are there connections that leave you feeling drained or undervalued? Are you investing in friendships that reciprocate your care and support? Surround yourself with individuals who uplift you, who celebrate your victories, and who stand by you during challenging times. Practice setting clear boundaries and communicating your needs openly. Embrace the Stoic principle of self-respect. You have every right to prioritize your emotional well-being. Don't hesitate to distance yourself from those who consistently take without giving, or who manipulate your feelings to maintain control. In the journey toward nurturing genuine connections, remember that your worth is not defined by how others treat you, but by the respect you show yourself. Choose wisely who you let into your life, and cultivate relationships that enrich your spirit and foster your personal growth. If you found this video valuable, please consider subscribing to the Stoic Vivu channel for more insights on Stoic philosophy and practical guidance for modern life. Like this video and share it with anyone who could benefit from these lessons. Together, we can build a community that supports each other's journeys toward genuine connections and personal growth. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the complexities of relationships. Stay mindful, stay stoic, and keep striving for the authentic connections you deserve.